Hi, how are you? My name is Eamon O'Malley. I'm the keyboard tutor and music technology with Music Generation Tipperary, and just welcome you to In Focus, where today we're going to be discussing the keyboard and the use of the keyboard in band settings. With me here today, I have Cara Patterson, and Cara is going to be helping me show and demonstrate some of the sounds that you'll be using on a keyboard in a typical setup in a band. So we're going to go through some of the more usual sounds from piano to organ and a little bit of synthesizer too, and show you when be the most appropriate or the best times to use them and for what type of songs. So, Cara, how are you?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Not too bad. So, Cara, how long have you been playing piano for?
7 years now.
7
since I
years.
was 8 or 9.
7 years. Great, excellent. And you study piano, obviously, did you?
Yeah.
And who was your teacher?
Anne O'Malley in Clonmel.
In Clonmel. So you're from
Yeah.
Clonmel yourself.
Yeah, I am.
Where'd you go to school?
Press secondary.
Press secondary, great. So, Cara, would you have done much playing of music in groups or at events or anything like that?
I do music concerts
Yeah.
with other people in my classes, and for tests and exams and practicals, we do exam pieces and stuff.
Great, yeah. And would you have played any concerts just in school or?
In school concerts, yes,
And then,
sometimes.
yeah, great. And do you do anything outside of music or piano, I should say?
I do a lot of dancing,
Yeah.
and I do musical theatre as well.
Great. So you've got you've an experience of a couple of different styles of music
Yeah.
and different ways of playing. Excellent. So up to now, it's just really been piano that you've done, is it?
Yeah.
So we're going to start looking at the piano first of all. So what we have here is your typical stage piano. This one, like most pianos, has 88 keys, but you can get them in smaller ranges than that. You can get pianos or keyboards that will have only 61 keys or even smaller again. The one we have here today is one with the full 88 keys. So we're going to just look first of all with the most normal sound that we think of for keyboards, which is piano. So piano would be used an awful lot in the early days of rock and roll, and also today with a lot of ballads and a lot of contemporary music. Cara, would you have any favorite piano players or any favorite musicians, keyboardists?
I like listening to Kate Bush. Yeah.
Kate Bush, yeah,
She's
right.
really good.
And yeah, that's brilliant. Yeah, excellent. And Chris Martin and Coldplay
yeah,
as well.
definitely,
You're mentioning that. So that's kind of like an example of kind of a typical modern pop piano. So
Yeah.
what we're going to do here today is just play an example. Our car's going to play along some backing tracks. The first one we got lined up is very much in that style of a contemporary pop ballad song. And it'll just give you an idea of when you're using one of these stage pianos, the type of approach that'll work. So we might just listen to the backing track? That was lovely. That was really nice. So just one thing I was going to say about that. You notice there with keyboards a lot of the time, when you're playing piano, you normally have to play both hands at the same time because you're providing the bass notes in the left hand when you're playing piano, like classically. Isn't that normally the case? But there you're just playing with the right hand, because in a band situation you'll often have a bass player or another instruments to provide that accompaniment, which means that you can concentrate more on bringing out that melody in the right hand. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. I noticed you weren't using the pedal as much. No, but that helps to make things a little bit more tied together, doesn't it? Do you want to just play the opening of it again and just try and use the pedal for a second so you can hear how it changes it and makes it a little bit more, I suppose, what they call legato, but more tied together. Yeah, it really makes it more atmospheric sometimes in the quieter section. So it's really good like that. Of course, the piano works really well for quieter tracks like that. But you find out if you're playing with a band and usually with a drummer and with a bass player like that, sometimes the piano can get lost very quickly against all those electrified instruments, you know. And sometimes the piano gets you. I know myself when I used to start playing, you'd be just turn up the volume and you wouldn't even be able to hear yourself after a while against the guitars and the bass guitars. But and that was a problem that keyboard players had as well in the early days of rock and roll. But what kind of helps with that is by using an organ sound, we found. So the organ is an electrical instrument, and that means it's a little bit, it's more amplified and there's a lot more volume. And I think we've got an example of a organ sound on that keyboard there, don't we? And of course, the organ is a more louder sound as well. So on your modern keyboards or stage pianos, they go, some we call different things. You'll have literally hundreds of sounds sometimes, and sometimes it's hard to know, you know, what to play for what setting. But in a rock setting, the organ sound works really well, doesn't it? Yeah. So we have again another example of a backing track for you to play against it there, which is a little bit more upbeat, a little bit more reminiscent, I think, of more kind of 90s Britpop kind of music, yeah, which I know you love. So we might have a listen to that track and get you to play against it. Great, thanks. That was really cool. And you can tell, like, immediately, like, that the organ completely held its own there against all the other tracks. And so if you were jamming out with a band, you know, if you've got, if everything's, all the instruments are playing pretty loud, the organ will definitely stand out there. A couple of things about the organ that's great too. And if you notice down there, we've got a volume pedal too, which is really handy because it allows you then to control the volume of the organ without actually having to use your hands. So if you're busy playing and you're going to take a solo with that, you can use the volume pedal there. So if you just, Cara, play one of those chords for us again, maybe that first chord and hold it, and just use the pedal then to open the pedal up and down to get adjust the volume. So if you pull back on the pedal, we can hear how the volume goes. So you can use that during verses, and then if you push down on the pedal, say you got a solo coming up, and that'll lift the volume, which is great. Another thing on most keyboards, if you notice, most keyboards you might find down at the very left-hand side, you'll have a modulation wheel. It's a little joystick that you can adjust, and sometimes that can adjust certain aspects of the sound. And on an organ sound, it can use what sometimes used to be called a break or a tremolo. So if Cara, if you want to just hold a chord and just you can give people an idea what that effect sounds like. So you can hear the sound, there's a little tremolo effect, and if you take off if you held, you can hear it goes back to normal, yeah. And you find that on these keyboards, you'll have those little modulation wheels, and they can allow you to adjust the sound when you're playing like there, so we can put that tremolo in. And that's really, really handy. Now, the organ sounds great, especially on a lot of older kind of rock songs. It sounds really powerful, but often nowadays, the most usual keyboard sound that you're going to hear, your most usual keyboard sound you're going to hear is usually some version of a synthesizer. And in a way, it's kind of like a modern version of the organ, because the longer you hold, if you keep the note held down, the sound will continue on. And it's great in a lot of pop songs because it allows you to hold a chord and just let the chord hold without actually having to do too much playing. It's really handy, and it really fills out the sound. And I think we have an example of that synth pad sound. They're usually called pad sounds on your keyboard because it literally pads out the sound of the music. So, so Cara, are we able to? We've got one of them on this keyboard. Haven't we? Just want to play it there, the sound, so you can hear about people. So you can hear how it totally fills out the sound. It's got this kind of like, almost sounds like a string section, which is really great. Just want to play it again there. That first part. So it's cool. So maybe we've got an example of a track we can play that you can hear that in action, and how you can hear it, how just holding those chords can really fill out a sound. It's very, very reminiscent of the music from one of your favorite TV shows, I think, which is Stranger Things, isn't it? Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got that electronic 80s kind of music feel to it. So we might just play that track and let Cara demonstrate how the pad sounds. Great, thanks. So that was really great. Thanks, Cara. So that gives you an example of just I mean, there wasn't too much playing in that, was there? You were basically holding chords for a lot of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the other tracks were a little bit more active, but that actually filled out the sound as much, if not better, in some ways than a lot of those songs. So, say if you were singing, like, that would give you a nice harmony. You wouldn't really need too much else to sing along with there, would you?
No.
If you were kind of accompanying yourself on a song, it's
Yeah.
really handy that way. So just on those three sounds, from the piano to the organ to the synth pad, you've like so many different options. If you're going into a band setup now, like I think if you found yourself at your first band rehearsal, you'd have an idea of depending on the type of song, what sort of sound do you think would fit? Do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it would, definitely. Even on that last synth sound we had there, I think there's a couple of ways we can even change that sound as we're playing to make it more interesting. I think if you hold maybe a note there, and we had any note at all, and remember we had the cutoff, the dial up there. So you might get you hear how it changes the sound just by altering it. And the resonance next to it, that's another one, you can change that too. You get an idea that how, even if you're playing, because you might have one hand free, that you can then use that to put some action and a bit of drama into the sound too. So it makes it a little bit more exciting, yeah? So I think we've covered an awful lot there, even just in those three short pieces, that I think if you were to go in for your first band rehearsal, it'll give you some ideas of the type of methods of playing and the type of sounds that would set you up for nearly 90% of the music that you're going to be playing. So I think I just want to thank Cara for coming along and helping us here today, and for playing so well. Thank you for watching, and have best of luck with all your playing.